Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Total Biscuit. Let's address the elephant in the room. Why is there no Dark Souls 3 coverage today? Well, it's because we did it weeks ago. When the game was first made available for press and certain streamers, I streamed the game for over 2 hours and basically addressed all of the issues that I would have addressed in a port report, as well as give some gameplay impressions. I have literally zero interest in talking about the gameplay of Dark Souls because I know it is utterly pointless to do so. I'm not good enough at the game to even provide any sort of analysis, not to mention the fact that the last time I attempted it, I got basically threatened with death from people. And you know what? Right now, I can't be bothered with that anymore. The port report in and of itself presents a number of different problems. Not in terms of the port, but in terms of the way that that information is delivered and just how accurate it can be. That's becoming abundantly clear the more of these port report videos I do, especially after the huge amount of yelling I received with the Far Cry Primal port report, which for both of my systems was accurate, but of course for many others it wasn't. Who's right? Well, nobody's right, really. Either the game runs well on my PCs or it doesn't. It was tried on 2 different systems, it ran badly on both. And that was after a ludicrous amount of testing, I might add. You know, testing on 2 different operating systems, actually technically 4 if you count the fact that we had 2 installed on both. Multiple restarts, multiple driver versions, different variants of SLI combinations, all sorts of different things. Hugely time consuming and ultimately of no benefit, really, unless those problems would affect you as the player. And you can never really truly know. I think Far Cry Primal was like one of the last times that I really looked into feedback, and I found the whole lot to be utterly confusing because a lot of people agreed, a lot of people disagreed. And then you've got the people that say, well, it runs fine for me, which is a completely useless piece of feedback. As I mentioned in a previous video on this, you know, that's a very subjective opinion. What is run fine for you? Is that 30 frames per second, 40? Are you just less sensitive to frame rate than I am? I don't know. How could I know that? It becomes sort of ultimately pointless. The problem with Dark Souls 3 in particular when it comes to the port is there's already a good port report out by Durant, and he knows a lot more about the PC platform than I do. I will happily admit that. He's a more technically minded guy. And the frame rate drops that he pointed out, which was the real major performance problem with the game, are so far into the game that I personally can't test them. Because I can't get there. I don't want to play the game that long anyway, and even if I did, who's to say that I'm even good enough to get to that point? That makes a game like Dark Souls 3 an incredibly difficult game to properly assess on any level unless you are good enough to actually get to that point. Given enough time, I absolutely could, but a little bit of a sobering thought here, I have limited time to spend with both my family and with work. I have chemotherapy tomorrow. I'm going to be out of action for at least 3 days, possibly more than that, because of how sick it makes me. I've got the podcast today. I've got basically half a day to make a little bit of extra content to go up during the chemotherapy period, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get that done. I'm working on a bunch of other games. WTF is takes a very, very long time to do properly. I don't know if you've noticed that. You know, a quick video like the one that I did on Monday, which was just a fish video, was just a blind first impression, which I've been doing for years in different series, 15 minutes of game, why do I own, as well as the older versions of WTF is from years ago. You know, that's a format that I basically, I wouldn't say pioneered, but stole from the Giant Bomb crew like 6 years ago and kind of did it in a little bit of a different way. And that's useful B-tier filler content. It's the sort of thing that you can do quite quickly. You can cover a wider variety of games if you do that on a more regular basis. And yeah, it gets less views, but you invested like 1/10 of the time into it, so it doesn't really matter if it gets only half or 1/3 of the views. That's something that cost you 10 times more in terms of opportunity cost ends up getting view-wise. You know, that's just how things work. There's a reason why people make both reality TV shows and Game of Thrones, because you can't make 30, 40 series of Game of Thrones. You don't have the time, you don't have the resources. And I'm afraid to say it, but I'm just one guy struggling with a nasty illness right now. It does make making a huge amount of content quite difficult. And I only say this because we got some pretty, well, vicious feedback, if anything, from the viewers via various methods that was communicated to me through my PR guy. And I can't imagine what else is there. There's probably a bunch of stuff on the subreddit and Twitter and everything like that. And I've tried to remove myself from that, and it's a really difficult process. Some of it was pretty hateful, and it's obvious that some people don't really understand the position that I'm in right now, and also how content production works, because they seem to believe that one replaces the other, which is totally not true. The upcoming WTF is a Polaris sector that I'm working on. I've currently put over 20 hours into the game, and I still don't feel like I can properly express my opinion, because I think there's areas in which I'm lacking knowledge, and I might be playing it suboptimally. Now, that's 20 plus hours on a game I haven't even filmed yet. How much time did the fish game take? Not much. much less than that. It's not an either-or situation. They're not mutually exclusive. The port report is a similar problem. The amount of time I'd have to invest in order to say something that someone else has already said is ultimately a waste of time. And we've been bombarded by requests, again, via my PR guy, which I might remind you is not the place to email those requests. We're going to just start completely ignoring them, because that's the place where developers email to get codes and such. It's not a place to send feedback. One way or the other, a lot of people saying, oh, the port's broken. The port's broken, you need to tell us. It's not broken for me. I'm sorry, I played it 2 weeks ago before they even patched it without the proper drivers, and it still wasn't broken for me. It's certainly not broken now. When I tried it last night, it worked perfectly fine. So what can I tell you? It's broken for some people? Right, you could find that out on the Steam forums. That's not useful information. It's got to the point where, unless a port has such major glaring technical issues or missing features that are missing for everybody, there's really no point in even putting a video like that out, because it's just what I experienced. It's not what anybody else necessarily experienced. You look at the Steam forum right now. Look at it. You've got people that are saying, this is broken, this is a ripoff, and then you got people saying, it works perfectly for me. Low performance, high performance, works fine, doesn't work fine. Locked at 30 FPS? No. I mean, that's flagrantly false, but what use is creating a video on that? Nothing, I don't know if it's just people that really want me to make a video about this game that I already own, or make a video about the popular thing. Hey, have you not already noticed that's not what I do? This channel is about exposing information on games to people, and if that information is already out there, unless it direly needs a signal boost, then I don't really see a huge reason to waste my time creating any content on it. I mean, hell, even making this is a waste of time, but at least it might get into the heads of some people. Stop emailing Chris with this nonsense. Thank you very much. As a reminder, if you wish to watch my stream, which you can do, all of the VODs get uploaded to an unofficial channel anyway. It's really easy to find. You just search Total Biscuit live streams. There's a guy that archives them all. He has full permission to do that. I don't want to upload those streams because, frankly, streams don't create suitable VOD content unless they're deliberately designed to be so. Because there's weird Q&A with stuff in chat. There's responding to chat, which you can't see. There's all sorts of other things. It's lower quality content in general when it comes to VOD delivery, so I just don't put it out, because I don't think it's suitable. So if you want to see how it performed for me, i.e. completely fine across the board, and you want to see what the options are like and what the menus are like, which are a little bit gnarly, I mean, they're just the same as Dark Souls 2, It's a game designed to be played with controller. They have not improved the menu control with Dark Souls 3 as opposed to Dark Souls 2. They haven't really improved the controls for mouse and keyboard at all. It's a game that you've really got to play with a controller to get the best experience. I know some people can play with mouse and keyboard, and more power to you, but I think the majority of people are going to play with controller because it just does feel a lot better. It feels like it was designed for that, which in itself sucks, but again, this is the same information you had about Dark Souls 2. And frankly, when I did a port report of Dark Souls 2, I made a bunch of errors. There were things that I didn't notice until later on, so I don't think my video was useful at all, and I think Dark Souls 3 will fall into the same thing. There are, of course, elements of the fact that if you ever say anything bad about a venerated franchise like that, you will get shit on from on high, and I just can't be bothered with that. I don't need the stress in my life, that's going to just shorten my lifespan at this point, so screw that, and screw a Dark Souls 3 port report. If you want to find out how it works, go read Durante's article on the subject. He's very detailed. Or go and look on the Steam forums where you get a bunch of conflicting opinions. Way! PC gaming! It's fun, isn't it? Yeah. Not much I can really do about that. So this is not a Dark Souls 3 port report, and there will not be one. Thank you very much for watching, folks, and I will see you next time.